All right. Well, good morning, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Remy from Logix Academy. It's a pleasure to have you all back again for our third week of the Logix Academy mBlock 5 CMON board online training session. I know many of you have joined us before, and some of you may be new. I urge everyone to prepare for getting started today by simply going to logixacademy.com/SteamOnBoard, in which you can access the mBlock 5 software, in which you can open up the lesson material for today, as well as you're able to join the Logix educator community as a Logix teacher. If you haven't already done that, you can join in the mBlock 5 discussion there. And then also you're able to join the mBlock 5 or mBlock global community, in which you can share projects, download other folks' projects, and see all the work there specifically. Again, Mina and I are so honored to continue this series with you. We're delighted to be able to help you and work with you, to learn from you, and share with you resources available for yourself to learn, and also that you can work with your students on during this time period. I know it's an interesting time period as we transition across the country. I'm personally located in Toronto, where we just got recent news that schools, physical schools, will remain closed until the end of June. I understand and know, and in collaboration with many of the districts across the country, where some of you might be working in a dual environment, might be having to go physically and work with students while working remotely. So I can only imagine the amount of effort and stress and responsibility that is. So anything we can do to help by providing resources and tools that you can use is wonderful. So again, to get started, if you're just joining, please head to logixacademy.com/SteamOnBoard. And when you go to that page, you'll be able to scroll down, and you'll see there that we have all of our educator resources. And if you click, you can download mBlock 5 software or open the browser. You can join the mBlock 5 discussion on the Logix educator community. So again, if you open any of these links, you'll be able to continue collaborating there, and these are all tools for you to use. So as well, what we've done to help us answer some of the questions from last week around Google Classroom integration, we have both tutorial slides and a video available there. The video is quite simply to show you how to log in to mBlock 5 using your Google account. The tutorial slides are much more detailed to support you in integrating Google Classroom with mBlock 5. And so you're able to open up this PowerPoint slides anytime on your own, and you're able to get a walkthrough of what that looks like. So I thought, and I know not everyone uses Google Classroom, but I thought it would be appropriate to spend a few minutes to start off by just walking you through and showing you the capabilities of Google Classroom with integration for mBlock 5. And again, you can access all these resources at logixacademy.com/SteamOnBoard. And specifically for today, you can, of course, we're on lesson 3 today, talented. And you can access lesson 1 to download the material for them, as well as watch video recording 1 and 2, as well as download the material for lesson 3. All available on this one landing page for you to use throughout this course. I thought I'd take a moment here before I switch over to Google Classroom and before we get in deeper into the lesson specifically for today, to see if there's any initial thoughts or questions. So maybe in the chat, if you want to just share any thoughts you have about mBlock 5, on anything you've done with it, if you've had a chance or an opportunity to actually do the panda lesson where it was interacting, or a panda sprite interacting with another sprite that was shared in the email for last lesson. If you have any experiences, good, bad, challenges, please feel free to share them in the chat right now. It would be wonderful to hear from you what your experiences have been so far. I'll give everyone a minute or two to just think about that and share their thoughts. So see here, Bridget, you added your own voice to the sprite, so you're able to upload sound files and add your voice, which is an awesome tool for ourselves, and you can imagine as well for the students to be able to personalize a story or personalize a character all on their own using this tool. So that's wonderful to see and hear. Any other experiences or thoughts or that anyone would like to share? Couldn't link your story to the curated site, so I'm imagining that's the mBlock, the global mBlock community. So that, as a reminder, you could do that in two ways. Is you can actually log into the community here and be able to upload or download projects. So these are lots of projects available there that you can use, or you can upload your own. So maybe Henry, after this, at the end of the meeting or the workshop today, we can work with you specifically to help you get through that. And there is a video instruction as well on how to do that if you haven't had a chance to see it. Okay, so I'm going to switch over to do a little bit of an introduction on Google Classroom, and then we'll go from there. So again, the idea, and I'm not going to go through the whole presentation. These slides are available for you, again, linked on the STEAM on Board website. If you simply just click on tutorial slides, and there's a video as well to help you. So here you could see that you can visit your classroom and follow the instructions on, in the Google Teacher Center to set up and prepare your classroom as you would with anything else. And then having your mBlock profile allows you to store your projects on a cloud, use Microsoft Cognitive services, exchange data between mBlock and hardware and software, and of course share to the community. So the first thing is you have to have a Google Classroom account, and you should create a class inside Google Classroom. And within that class, you should add the students with their Google account. And then for the teacher, you can create your projects in mBlock 5 and make sure you're logged in with your mBlock account. And then when you go to share, so when you're sharing your project, you click on the share to rather than just saving it on your desktop. And what you will see is you'll be able to share the project to your Google Classroom account. And when you do that, you're able to see the classes you have. So you can see that if you created a class in your Google Classroom account, you'll be able to see your, for example, mBlock 5 class. And then you're able to create an assignment. You're able to set up the assignment, depending if you're assigning timeline to it for the students, and go through that whole process. And again, I'm not actually spending time to do this with you right now. I just want to show you that this resource is here and available for you and walks you through this. For mBlock 5 integration with Google Classroom. I see a couple of questions in the chat. So Oliver, at the moment, it's only set up with Google Classroom, not Microsoft Teams at the moment. Yeah, it's only for Google Classroom. They are working with Microsoft Teams, but it's not available at the moment. Number two, Muniza, yes, Logix has an agreement with TDSB. Oliver, even though it doesn't work with Microsoft Teams in the sense of full integration, you can still use the mBlock account. You could still export the file yourself manually and be able to save it or upload it yourself to your OneDrive. So, you know, it's a little bit more work, but you could still do it, is what I want to say. It doesn't fully integrate in the same way. But hopefully soon there will be a launch with the good news around the integration with Teams. It's not out yet at the moment. All right. So again, just a reminder that this is all part of our virtual learning and training for educators series. And there's a lot of different topics and courses available. And we're actually so excited to announce that starting June 1st, we've partnered with several new organizations to launch a whole series of new topics, all from special education, all around working with new hardware, Lego EV3, Microbit. So we're so excited that this series continues to grow, and we engage thousands of educators like yourself on a weekly basis in training during this time period. So I'm really excited to share with you that new announcement. And if you have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out to us at education@logixacademy.com. Again, classroom resources, I think I've shared this with you several times, so check that out. Please join the Logix Educator community. It's open to join. Everyone can join and become a Logix teacher. And then once you become a teacher, you'll hear about the different levels of ambassador and innovator. And there's some really cool things that we're announcing for those levels. And again, in there, you can join the chat and talk with everyone in this group all around mBlock 5, for example, and be able to join the conversation. So without any further ado, I'm going to hand it over to Mina to work with you on lesson number 3, which again, you can access lesson number 3 on the website by downloading the materials. So I would urge you to open the materials right now, have mBlock 5 open, and then you can have this screen in the corner so you can follow along and have a hands-on learning experience at the moment. Off to you, Mina.
Thank you so much, Remy. Good to have everyone back, or those that are joining us for the first time. Looking forward to teaching and learning with you and really going through lesson 3 together. As we concluded last week, and we put in the reminder email for this session, I hope you had a chance to create your project of Panda speaking with another sprite as they take turns. I know some of you found that a little bit challenging, but I hope you're able to kind of go through this and see how you can find a solution to that. And we're able to create a community account for mBlock by visiting planet.mblock.cc. And also sharing your project in the curated studio. We will revisit this again today. It's really simple as pasting a link to your project onto the studio. So we'll go through that later on in today's session. Just a reminder that I will be wearing a couple of hats throughout these sessions, one being giving you teacher tips, and the other one is going through the lesson together with you as you would go through with students and how to make the project. So I hope I'm able to wear those couple of hats successfully there. So to get us started, as we usually have, you can open up your lesson plan document that was downloaded from from the website. And once I'm going to be sharing my screen here so that you can see the lesson plan and have that ready for you. You can see that the lesson plan is very similar to the last two that we've had so far. We are still in the subject of computer science. It is a beginner level, and it's a duration of 45 minutes, and all the lessons that you'll see are a duration of 45 minutes. Very quickly, the objectives of today's lesson is called Talented Transformations, and it covers a variety of different objectives, so including identifying and using events and blocks in mBlock. We have used, one part of events last week, and we will try to see the different events that we will use this week. We've distinguished between when flag is. We're going to distinguish between when flag is clicked and when key is pressed. So that's something that we will do today. We're going to trigger a program to run using keyboard inputs. So a lot of input from the keyboard. You will see that happening today. Changing appearance of a sprite using looks. And then what's really interesting is using positive and negative values to control actions. You will use the positive and negative values with your learners in the classroom, and then we're going to explain the importance of resetting values in mBlock projects. Very quickly, you'll see the overview of discovering events using the keyboard input and learning how to control sprites appearance. You'll also create an interactive project. Again, every lesson has a project for you, so it's kind of like homework if you want to use that term, which incorporates positive and negative values to increase and decrease transformation effects. And then we will learn the importance of clearing and resetting values. As always, there's a pre-lesson checklist for you, so you should have the PowerPoint, as I will share in just a moment, as well as mBlock 5 software, whether it is downloaded onto your computer or you're using the online format. And in all the lesson plans that are shared with you, there are the national standards, CSTA, as well as ISTE, and you will also see all the provincial standards for Canada, covering this time it's covering mathematics, because you are probably using some patterns, some transformations. A lot have to do with geometry, so we've included that for you in lesson 3. So I'm just scrolling down to the beginning of the lesson, and every lesson starts with a warm-up question. Or a warm-up section. So let me get to that, and we'll get started with the warm-up as we usually go through. So this warm-up is about 10 minutes, and it kind of reviews what we did last week of using 2 different say blocks from the looks menu, and we talked about the difference in depth last week, and we talked about how the say hello for 2 seconds only says hello, only gets the panda or the sprite to say hello for a specified number of seconds, while the say hello block says hello, or whatever you type in, indefinitely until you either stop the program, or if there is another block that has been put in there that follows that say hello block. So we talked about that, and you can review that with your learners. And today we're going to actually learn, and we also learned how to create backgrounds for our sprites. And that's not in the lesson plan, but just a quick review of what we did last week. We added a background, and we had Panda give an introduction to all the friends on Earth, and we examined the 2 different looks blocks. Today, before we begin working, the lesson plan has students take a look at a pre-made example program in mBlock 5, And I want to set our stage for a moment to help you get started with this warm-up. So in the lesson plan, there is a nice introduction to what you will be seeing or what you will be reading to your learners to get them in the mood or get them really started on here. So you're going to say that in our last program, Panda's Greeting, we successfully helped Panda meet many new friends on Earth. These friends are throwing a welcome to Earth party to celebrate Panda's arrival. To get to know Panda better, they have asked Panda to showcase a unique talent. Since Panda can change size, change color, become transparent, change brightness, and can even multiply, Panda decides to showcase these transformations at the upcoming party. So this is a very quick introduction to get your learners interested in what they're doing today. And I'm going to ask everyone to open up the mBlock 5 file, which is called Sprite Transformations, and I will do the same. And this will give you and your learners a chance to really get started with this lesson in a nice and fun way. So I have mine open on my screen there, or if you are, and kind of learned this also last week, where if you need to open a file, all you need to go to is File, and you can either use Open, which is using the file that's saved on your computer, or import from computer if you're using the web-based version of that. So there's two ways that you can load this file and open it. Just please choose the way that you're using at the moment. So as you can see here, I'm just going to make this view a little bit. I'm going to zoom in a bit so that you can see more what I see. And you're going to see a code that is already made for you and for your learners. And we're going to test out this code and see what's happening in the background here. Now, I understand this may be a little bit complex, but this is a warm-up portion. We're just going to play around with it, just like what we did in the first lesson where we played a game, the Space Adventures game. This time, we're going to test out these different transformations for Panda and see how we can notice or observe what is happening to Panda there. So I'm going to encourage you, and this is what you can encourage your learners as well, is to open this file individually and go through this code and have your learners go through this code at their own pace or speed and make observations about what this program is doing. And the main goal of this is to make observations about the program without you teaching them. And that's what we're going to do right now. So I want you to open the program, and you're going to run the code by using the keyboard to initiate some events. As you can see, you have some events available to you, and I will do the same. I'm going to make this a little bit bigger so that you can see my Panda and be able to see more of the stage area. So you can start with you can start with numbers 1 to 8. So you have 1 to 8 to test out this code. I will start with number 1, and let's see what happens to Panda when I press number 1 on the keyboard. Trying to get mine working here. Oh, there we go. So just going to press 1 again to show you what's happening. And as you're watching this, make some observations here. And this, just looking at the chat, this file is located in the curriculum folder that was shared with everyone. it's supposed to be on the logicsacademy.com/steam on board. So if you're not sure if that is, yeah, the code is there. So it's in the folder so that you can download it. It's called Sprite Transformations Lesson 3. So if you have that open, we're going to try number 2. And you can notice what's happening in number 2 there. Let's try number 3. Number 4. Keyboard number 5. Number 6. We're going through numbers 1 to 8. Number 7. And finally, number 8. And we should have seen different transformations happening to Panda. We've observed what the code does when we run it, and the goal is to see what your students liked about this program and what they didn't like. So what did they like of the different transformations, and what they didn't like, or really what they didn't enjoy. And those and after they test this out, after they go through buttons 1 to 8 on the keyboard, you're going to ask them to choose 3 transformations from this list. And feel free to type in your what you liked in the chat. Oliver liked number 8, so that's really cool. And you're going to ask your learners to choose 3 transformations from this warm-up to be used later on in the session there. So you're going to, once they have chosen this, and feel free to type in the transformations that you liked. So if you have a moment to go into the chat and type in what 3 effects you enjoyed or found really cool, please go ahead and do that. And you'll notice that Panda has also been programmed to say the effect that is being run. So if I click on number 1, it says the word color. If I say number 2, it says fisheye. All of these are transformations that are already embedded into the program, and you're able to test that out as you're going along. And you're going to encourage your participants and your learners to, even though they may have seen this code on the right, and it may look a little bit complex, that you're going to see this code run, and we're going to learn all these codes today. So that is very exciting, and it's a lot of fun to learn that these transformations are what they're going to be doing today. So we're going to learn these programming blocks that Panda will need to use in order to showcase his transformations in this programming party. So I'm going to go back. I'm going to go back to the PowerPoints that we have available. So if you haven't had a chance to open the PowerPoint, please go ahead and do that. It is available on the Steam on Board website. And thank you for Bridget for providing the 3 transformations that they like. So this is awesome. Whirl is my favorite, as well as Ghost. So that's really, really neat to see. So in this PowerPoint, this is something that you can go through with your learners. We kind of did the review together, and we reviewed the different say blocks. So that's something that we've already gone through in the lesson plan, but this is something that you can also go through with your learners. And we had some time to play around with this example program, this pre-made program that we just did, and to initiate or trigger the different effects you're using on the keyboard, buttons 1 to 8, and you're going to see the effect that is happening and what Panda is doing essentially using those effects. So to get our hands on, I'm going to quickly go over the difference between the events that we may have used in the past, such as when flag is clicked, versus the events that we used in this example program that uses keyboard input. An event, just to review, is the start signal or a trigger for subsequent actions. And you can see that you have the when flag is clicked, that is an event, but also when space key is pressed is also an event that that we are going to be using in today's session. So that is one thing that I wanted to go over. The other thing in the next slide is we'll go through quickly a couple of events as well as looks in the menu, and we're going to go through the events as well as looks for and what these functions have to do. So very quickly, in the events, you have the space key is pressed, and most of the events that are available to you have a drop-down menu, and you may have noticed that in mBlock 5, when you click on this drop-down menu or like a small arrow that's pointing down, you have multiple options available to you, and you're able to choose the option that is that you want to use as an event. And then the function is to press a key on the keyboard to start the subsequent actions.
Mina?
Yeah.
If we may pause for just 1 minute, I see a couple of folks just struggling a little bit with accessing content. So I want to make sure we're all taking as much benefit as possible from this.
Sure.
So I'm going to just share my screen one more time to get everyone to see that process.
Yeah. I'll stop mine for now.
So for Heather, Tara Lee, Cheryl, anyone else, Maniza, anyone else who's looking, I would recommend you just take a look at my screen for a second right now to make sure we're all on the same page for accessing content. So again, for every week, our materials are available on Steam on Board, so logicsammy.com/Steam on Board. Below each lesson, you'll see a link. This link will say download curriculum material respective to the lesson above. And once you click on that link, so if we click on today's link, download curriculum material for lesson 3, it will open up a Google Drive folder, which will have the lesson plan, the slide deck as a PDF, the slide deck as a PowerPoint, and then these mBlock files that are the project-related code that Mina is referring to. So you have two options. Either you can click and download the whole folder, and that downloads a zipped folder to your desktop, your downloads folder, if you're on Windows, or in Finder on Mac, and then you can unzip the whole folder to have all these files. Or you could just simply download just one of these files, and when you download it, it downloads that file directly to your desktop. So depending on how you download it, whether you download the whole folder or just that one file, you'll be able to access it. Now, once you've downloaded it, you want to go to mBlock software. So once you have mBlock open, you go to File, Open, and click on that file and be able to open it. So for the sake of time, I just wanted to make sure that is clear. This is the same process for every week, and I would urge and recommend you download these. They're always available at least 24 hours before the lesson, so you can download them and keep a copy of all of them for yourself for future use as well. Again, I'll turn it back to Mina, and then if you have any other questions, I'll support.
Thank you, Rami. Yes, I did see some of the issues that some of you may have been going through. So thank you for taking the time to do that. I will share my screen as everybody gets settled here with downloading the file and being able to use the files that we have available. And as I get this running, just give me 1 second here. So we kind of stopped at going through a couple of events as well as looks. And we talked about the events block and what this does on the keyboard. So this function presses a key on the keyboard to start the subsequent action. And this is a definition for events. And you will notice that in looks, this is the other category that you'll be using today. There is a block called change size by, and it has a value of 10. And this function allows you to change the size of the sprite. When the value is positive, the role will become larger, and vice versa. If the value is negative, the panda or the sprite will change size and it will decrease in size rather. So we're going to see that difference in just a minute. We will also go through the change color effect by 25 block, and you can see in the drop-down menu, and this is what we saw earlier in the warm-up, the different transformations or the effects that you played around with using the keyboard. And the function is to change the special effects of the sprite. When the value is positive, it will be strengthened, and it will be negative, it will decrease. So you can see that positive and negative values coming into play again. And finally, we will go through a clear graphics effects block, which kind of resets or restores the initial state of your sprite. So we're going to be doing this. We're going to do this together, and you can try this on your own using mBlock 5. So again, in the PowerPoint, there is a few slides with 10 steps of what you're going to be going through with your learners. I'm going to pass by this very quickly and actually go into mBlock 5 and do this with you. So going back to mBlock 5, I have mine already open in the example program, but I want to open a new project, so I can do File, File New, to open a new project. And it kind of clears everything on your screen there. So we're able to start a brand new project. And again, it defaults to the Devices tab. Make sure you click on Sprites because we are dealing with sprites or characters on the screen rather than devices. So we haven't used the devices yet. This will be later on in the training series. Make sure you're on the sprite. If you want to change your sprite, that's absolutely fine. If you remember how you recall how to do that, you can go ahead. But I'm going to keep the panda, and we're going to create two different effects plus a reset. So if you recall, we're going to take out events. If you go to the events category, we will take out the when space key is pressed. And we're going to be reserving the space key for a reset block. So we're going to change this to the up arrow. And we're going to use the up arrow to change the size of the panda. So if you go to looks now in the category, and very quickly we'll take out the change size by and place it right under and connect it to the event that you just put in. And you'll see that you have a positive value of 10. And you can test it out by clicking on the up arrow. And you'll notice that every time I click and every time you click, the panda increases in size by the value of 10. But we have a problem here. Okay, the panda is really big. How do we make the panda go smaller? decrease the panda's size? So if you have a moment and put in the chat, share with us how we can reduce the size of panda using events, and be able to do that here together. So the next event that we will use is always the opposite, just to help you and your learners think about opposites and what we're using in our programs. We're going to use the down arrow. So I'm going to click on the drop-down menu, select down arrow. And some of you are right, we're going to be using a negative number for the change size. So we're going to take out another change size block and add a dash, so to make it a negative value. So now some learners may be a little bit young, but as long as you let them know that a negative value decreases the size of your panda for this specific example, they'll make that connection, and then you can talk about it later down the road, and talk about positive and negative numbers on a number line. So that's the next thing you're going to test out. Click on the down arrow and just make sure that your panda is decreasing size. So we kind of solved the problem here with the size. The next thing that we're going to be doing is changing the effect to a mosaic. So if you recall, the effect is also in the looks menu, and this change size block is also in the looks menu. When you're using that, it's a little bit down from your screen there. So change size by, but the effect of mosaic, which we will do next, is called change color by. Now it doesn't show mosaic yet. It shows color. So remember, the drop-down menu allows you to see all the different effects that you will use. We're going to use a mosaic for this example, and it changes the effect by 25. Now we also need an event. So every transformation or every effect needs an event. Go back to events. We've already used the up arrow. We've already used the down arrow. Let's use the left and right. We're going to take out a when space key is pressed, change that to left. So actually make it right, because we have a positive value here, so you can make that connection with your students. A positive value is towards the right of the number line, a negative value is towards the left. So you kind of like help them make those connections in the classroom. So you can test that out. Press the right arrow, you'll see panda multiplying or making a mosaic effect. But let's reverse that and create another event using the down arrow. Using the left arrow rather, and back to looks and being able to use the change color. Now, some of you are wondering, can we duplicate blocks? And absolutely you can. This will save you and your learners tons of time coding in the classroom. And it's really easy to duplicate the blocks by, if you have a traditional mouse, you can use your right click in the block that you want to duplicate. It will say duplicate, and it automatically follows your mouse into the space that you want to drop this block of code that you just duplicated. You can drop it, and you can also move it whenever you want around the area here. If you don't want a particular block, you can always drag it over to the area where you brought these blocks from, let go, and that is the deletion of your blocks. So another way to make your code or put together your code by duplicating, that will save you lots of time. The final thing that we're going to do is add a reset button. And we're going to use the spacebar key to reset our code. So I'm going to add a when space key is pressed. Now, if we go back to looks, which block would you think resets the size of Panda? So there's a couple of things we did there. We've changed the size of Panda, but we also changed the effects of Panda. So the block that we're going to be using is the clear graphic effects. So if you put that in here, and you can do size, you can use your up and down keys and your left and right arrows to do this. Keep changing around the effects and the size there, so you can get the size as big as you want. But once you have that code of when space key is pressed, clear graphics, you're going to press the space bar key, and you'll notice that the graphics are clear, but something else has not taken effect. My Panda is still big. So how are we able to solve this? And this is also something that your learners will run into. How do you solve the fact that the Panda is still big? So if you have a chance, pop into the chat and share with me what block can be used to reduce the size of Panda without using the up and down arrows that we have already used. So take a second to look through the looks menu and share with me what that block could be. And this is something that you can also go through with your learners and figure out together what that block could be. So I'm not sure if anyone has put in an answer there, but just to let everybody know that the size or the default size of any sprite is 100%. So Sarah, you got that right. Set size to 100% would be the one to be used here, and that will solve your problem, because the Panda, when it starts off at the beginning, it starts off at 100%, and as we are using the up and down arrows, it obviously increases or decreases the size percentage-wise. So let's press the space bar again, and you will see that your Panda has cleared all its graphics, as well as the size is back to normal. So that's excellent, and you can share that with your learners to explain to them what's happening with these blocks. So it's really awesome to problem solve, to teach them problem solving and critical thinking there, in order for you to teach them and get them to learn mBlock 5 with you and code. So going back to the PowerPoint that we had, we're going to now very quickly, and I'm going to share this with you. This is kind of like the homework for everyone for this coming week, is to get creative and use your Panda or your sprite to showcase a variety of transformations at this Welcome to Earth party. So what we would like to see in your programs that you'll create on your own is the following, including an appropriate background for the party, using 3 transformation effects that you may have chosen from the warm-up earlier today, and then use trigger transformation events using the up, down, left, and right arrows. But you can also use W, A, S, and D. And you can talk about the reasoning behind W, A, S, D, and make that connection with your learners in that video games or video game design, especially for 2-player games, use WASD values or keys in their program to help build your program in various ways, so you can make that connection and get them used to video game design there. And the final thing is, once you have your 3 transformation events, create a reset effects block. Don't forget the size, to reset the size to 100 using the spacebar key. So that's your challenge for this coming week. And if you want, if you're a little bit more experienced, then everyone, it's really up to you. You can complete some extensions, and this is some of the extensions that your learners can go through as well. You can create a trigger or trigger multiple transformations with the same event, and also add save blocks to the program to program Panda to say something during the transformation showcase, just like how we saw in the example program. So you can add those extensions if you would like, and then share them in the curated studios on the planet.mblock.cc website, which is the community for mBlock. And I'll quickly go through that. I know we want some time for question and answer, so I'll go through that in just a minute. And finally, as we always do, and you can pop into the chat as we review the lesson together. You're going to ask 3 questions that are available to you that you can ask to your learners. So the first question that I will ask you, and you can type in the chat, which of the following options is not an event block? Is it A, B, C, or D? So please pop in the chat and enter your answer there. Absolutely, the answer is D. Wait is not an event, it's a control. And you will notice that all the events are shaped in this manner. You have this little bulge on the top of the left side of the block. This doesn't allow any other blocks to be stacked on top of it. So this is why they are considered events. So you can definitely tell the shape there. Awesome. Number 2, question number 2. There is a picture there. Which of the following blocks can make a sprite look like the figure in the picture? Which transformation event, or which transformation look block can be used? So pop in the chat, let me know your answer, and we can discuss them. That's correct. I see a lot of B's. B is the right answer. Change whirl effect by 200. So you're seeing that this image is being whirled into each other. So it's not color, it's not changing the size, and it's not mosaic. And you will notice that your learners will start to grasp these effects because they've played around with it in the warm-up section. So they have had a chance to really learn these effects and see how they can answer this question in the review. And then finally, question number 3, which of the following blocks can make a sprite return to its original appearance? Is it A, B, C, or D? So pop in the chat and also write or type in your answer there. And we just did that, so I hope that's really fresh in your mind right now. It is the clear graphics effects block. It is D. So you've done a great job in just reviewing with me this lesson 3 for our talented transformations. So with that said, just very quickly, if you go into the mBlock community, once you have signed up, you've created a username and password for yourself. You're going to be, obviously when you share, sorry, just going back to mBlock 5, if you click on save, let's say I want to save my file, I'm going to call it talented transformations. Click enter, save your project. It will take a second to save to the cloud, and you'll be able to. It'll be sent to your file, which is on the mBlock community. So it's just saving in the background there. When you click on the refresh button, it will show up in your projects section. So I have 4 projects. 1 of them are liked, and you'll see that now I have 5 projects. So if you click on that, the whole point of this, and I think I'm answering Henry's question here, is to actually get the code or the project number, the project code, so that you can share it with your in the Created Studio. So going back here, you're going to click on Share, and you'll see that you have a code on the address bar. You're just going to copy it, Control C or copy, and just going back into the Created Studio, you're going to paste it into that link, so, or into that area. So I hope that answered your question with sharing it with the community. Just going back to the website very quickly. As I'm doing that, I do want to mention that lesson 4 next week, we will begin to animate our sprite, our panda, using costumes and getting them moving in place. So it's called Walk in Place. That's next week. And we'll be able to do that together. Now, just a quick reminder before I pass it on to Rami for questions. Please make sure that you are, or try your best to create that program that I just mentioned in the independent practice. Include an appropriate background for the party. Include 3 transformation effects. Use events such as up, down, left, right arrows, WASD keys, and add a trigger event to reset everything in your code. And feel free to add some extensions on there. So very quickly, as I end off, you're going to add your project in your Created Studio and paste in your link, and you can click on Contribute, and everyone will be able to see that on there. Once you click on Contribute, you'll see that is available in the Studio projects. So with that said, I'm going to pass it back on to Rami for any questions. And during this period, feel free to ask in the chat, and we'll be able to answer those questions for you. So thank you to everyone.
Thank you so much, Mina, for guiding us through that today. I think you helped clear quite a bit around the use of mBlock, but also around sharing to the community and the difference between just saving it on your own cloud profile in mBlock just for yourself, as well as then sharing it to the public global community or Planet mBlock. And then, of course, with that, I'm sure most of you can see how you could also just save it on your local computer, or if you were working in Google Classroom, you could share it there, or if you were using OneDrive and Teams, you could just drag over the file there as well. So we do have a couple of questions in the chat. I'll turn the first one over to you, Mina. Is there an undo or redo? I'm assuming, Claire, your question is around inside mBlock 5 itself. So I'll turn that over to Mina.
Right now, Claire, there is no option to undo or redo. It would mostly be in the edit section, but if you do go to edit, you'll only see turbo mode, which is not what you're looking for. So there is no undo or redo. So yeah, that's the only thing that I would mention there, that you have to be careful with what you're coding. So right now there's no undo or redo.
Okay, and how about the next question is about the event block. I noticed that there is a like a receive message, because I want to create like when the like a sprite panda receives a message, then he can do some like reaction, say something or do something.
Yeah, absolutely. Receive message is a broadcast event that you can use with tagging along the other event block, which is broadcast message. So these 2 blocks work together. When I receive message and when I broadcast message are the ones that can be used with multiple sprites. So you have to use kind of both of them together with the same message that you would type in.
And Mina, are we going to be doing a broadcasting lesson later on in this series? Or maybe we can confirm.
Yeah, I believe so. Yeah.
Great.
Yeah, I see the events. There is a like a receive message underneath. There is a broadcast message.
Yes,
so
exactly.
there's a pair. Okay. Yeah,
So
I will try. Anyway.
For the sake of time, it is 12:30. I want to be respectful of everyone's time. So 2 quick questions to answer. Yes, you can create your own sprites. There's a design mode. You can actually draw anything you want. You can import pictures, Bitmojis. You can import anything you want. So you can make your face the sprite if you want. So all that's available. And it is 12:30. So I'm going to end it here in terms of the official time. Again, Mina and I will stay afterwards. I know we're going to be helping a couple of you individually. But if you have more questions, please stay on and connect. But again, if you remember a question after today, join the Logix educator community and ask your question there. We're monitoring all week, so we'll answer it. And by next Thursday, you'll have the video for recording for this class, as well as the curriculum content for next week's lesson available, so you can download it, Thursday or Wednesday next week before next week's Friday class. I hope you have a wonderful wonderful weekend. It's not a long weekend, this one, but it sure feels great with the weather in Ontario today. Anyways, I finally seeing some summer. So enjoy your weekend, and again, we'll stay afterwards to continue. So I see more questions. Specifically, do you have curriculum linked lesson plans available? Yes, all the lesson plans we're sharing are curriculum linked, and they are in the beginning of each one. Mina walks us through the curriculum connections to each of the provincial standards. So linked, and each of these 8 are linked to curriculum. Logix overall has an overall portal of lesson plans available for each hardware and software, and that's available at learn.logixacademy.com, which you can access available there.